Hi, welcome. My name is Anna Marie Green. I am a clinical licensed therapist. I am an professional intuitive. I'm a trained social worker. And I am here to help you and your family and the people of the world to have happier, healthier, easier lives by combining energy work and psychology so that we can uncomplicate and demystify mental health and the complexities that sometimes come with poor mental health or mental illness so that you can reach your goals, whether they're personal health related, mental health related, professional related, whatever. So you can reach your goals faster, more efficiently, and with more ease and sustain them. Because there's nothing worse than being like hitting a goal and then boop, plummeting afterwards. I get it. I really went into this work not not obviously yes by choice, but like I was definitely led into this work. And so I wanted to kind of introduce myself. I wanted to introduce what I do. If you're asking why I'm holding the microphone like this, I like holding a microphone. I don't know why. I've decided it. It's one of the it's one of the things that inspired me to even do this. So that's what I'm going to do. Anyway, so I was led into this work. I definitely don't think that I would have chosen it because before my spiritual awakening and before I became a therapist, your girl was black and white. She was like, "This is what I'm doing. This is why I'm going to do this." I had no interest in the clinical field because I didn't feel that I could handle the lack of control, if that makes sense. Because working one to one with people and working in the clinical realm and working with mental health healing and treatment plans and all that kind of stuff, really anything that isn't the meso macro side of social work, which that's like the admin stuff, program design, all that kind of stuff, it can be very hard and very emotionally draining, and you don't have any control. The number one thing that we learn as social workers when you're going through a code of ethics, I don't know how many of you guys, I had like an entire class dedicated to the code of ethics in my social work program. And one of the major things that we talk about, and it goes for any client, whether they're an organization or an individual, is self-determination. And so you don't control what your clients do. You don't get to control them. You can't force them to do anything, and you shouldn't want to. People, the best kind of healing that people can get is healing that they go into on their own accord when they're motivated intrinsically instead of externally. Obviously, external rewards can help influence people, but most of the time when we decide to actually make a change in our lives, it's coming from an intrinsic motivation. um, and that's one of the big things that I struggled with, was like, your clients can be experiencing these really hard things, and I just wasn't sure that I was going to be able to help them when it came to one-on-one work, even though I had people around me who were like, "You are literally so good at this. Why don't you do this?" And I was just like, "Nah, I want to design programs. I want to be in charge of media and communications and all that kind of stuff." So it took me a little while to get here. And I started my journey as a therapist in 2020 after I graduated my master's degree, after I went through a whole bunch of like personal life crises and traumas and like it was a whole mess. um is anyone, I know I talk to people all the time, anyone else, because kind of like 2019 we were like chilling, and then from 2020 to now it's like, what even happened? How did we even get here? How is it 2024? I was I'm like, what? I'm 28 years old. Time has flown, and yeah, and so here we are, here I am. And I will say, like, one of the big reasons I do what I do is because everyone deserves good mental health, healthy mental health, right? And one of the big things that I'm talking about this year that like is my keyword of the year for you guys is luxury. And the reason I did that is because, especially when it comes to mental health, most of us do not think of mental health as luxurious or luxury. We don't even actually think about mental health in the same capacity that we think about physical health. When we think about our physical health, we usually know that we're talking about the wellness, or the condition of our physical body, and like the health around it. So like, how is it doing? How is it performing? or like that kind of thing. And we think about a lot of preventative care when it comes to the physical health, the physical body. But when it comes to mental health, a lot of times when we're talking about it, we're talking about it in a negative connotation. We are already at a point where we're like, oh, mental health. We actually are using mental health, but we're meaning mental illness, but we're meaning unwell. Like we only are talking about mental health when we're talking about like the unwell side of it, the illness side of it, the debilitating effects it can have, that kind of thing. And so that's what I really wanted to change by adding luxury or luxurious mental health or that kind of thing, or luxury to mental health, is I wanted to change the way we think about it. Because for most of us, we are also leaving the state of our mental health, the health of our cognitive mental functioning, to external sources. So, and it's one of the few health, I would say the few health industries that we do this in. For example, when somebody is thinking of feeling better, their emotional health or mental health, and when I talk about mental health, I do mean like emotional our belief system. So really like our conscious, our subconscious, our emotional, I consider that how we think, how we respond, all of those kinds of things. I'm talking about that as well. But we will say things like, okay, I'll feel happy when I get this promotion, when X, Y, and Z happens external outside of myself. I will feel restful or at peace once I get this raise, once I lose 50 pounds. I will feel safe and secure if X, Y, and Z happens. It's one of the only, well, like if you think about like your physical health and you were like, okay, I really want my joints to feel better, or I want to be more flexible, or I want to feel healthier, you would say, okay, so to feel healthier, I will do X, Y, and Z, and then we will have preventative care. So like, I want to stay feeling healthy. I'm going to eat more plants. I'm going to exercise in this way. I'm going to do, X, Y, and Z. And we're not letting these external things outside of our life to determine the health, or to like, as a way to push off the progress that we can make. It's a lot of times it's intrinsic. Okay, I know I have to change this. I know I have to change how I approach working out. I know I have to, do X, Y, and Z to have this physical result with my physical health. And it goes for a lot of the different health industries, where it's the correlation is more intrinsic, as opposed to with mental health. So many of us, me included, like I have to remind myself this on a regular basis, and it do be tough. It's just, it'd be rough. But anyway, it's one of the only health industries where we're like, okay, I'll feel this way. I'll change, like, if X, Y, and Z happens. Like, we need these external things to happen in order to finally let ourselves feel the rest. But what actually ends up happening is those things may or may not happen. So say they happen. Say you get the promotion, say you lose the weight, and then you still don't feel the way that you thought you were going to feel, because you were focusing so much on these other external actions, these other external things, that you weren't actually taking the time to sit and connect with yourself, to go intrinsically, to dive into your mental health on these really deep levels. And that's a big thing, is like, so we've been trained and programmed to continually go outside of ourselves for advice, for wisdom, to try to receive love and pleasure and all these things, that our habit is to leave ourselves, is to not sit with our mental health, is to leave our mental health in the hands of others. And what ends up happening is then we're constantly just in this cycle of like working, doing all these things that are supposed to make us happy, that are supposed to make us feel at peace, that are supposed to make us feel safe and secure and feel better connecting to other people. But it doesn't. And so then we're kind of in this loop of always working on something, always looking outside of ourselves, always doing these certain things in order to try to create some type of change for ourselves. And that's just not the way to go. That it creates so many problems down the road. And this is something that I'll get into like in another video. But so when I first became a therapist back in 2020, everyone was going through it. I'm sure all of us remember the traumatizing year of 2020 and just like the pandemic and staying home and all these different changes and all this stuff, right? I was a new therapist. I was very green. So when my supervisor was like, "Yeah, you want to have 30 to 35 clients a week." There are any therapists listening, you know how insane that is. That is an insane number of clients to see a week. It is not manageable, or it is not sustainable. I did it for like probably like a couple months, but homegirl, I was burnt out. I remember crying like on the bus. Like, I was just like, because fun fact, your girl uses public transit all the time because I have epilepsy, can't drive. But so I was on the bus like crying. I'd be in the office crying. It was a great time, I guess, if you look at it financially for therapists, but like mental health wise, it was not doing great. I was so supervisor, new clinic was like 30 to 35 clients a week. Yeah, that's your goal, blah, 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 whatever. I was young. Not that I'm not young now, but anyway, so all of my clients too. So I had a caseload of, yeah, I would be seeing anywhere between 30 and 35 clients a week. I think my caseload was like 50 clients. And like I usually did 3-month treatment plans. And I think at the beginning I might have like done 6 months to a year treatment plans, but I never needed them to be that long. That was like, a year is an insane amount of time. At least for me. So anyway, but one of the things, every single person that I worked with was struggling with super intense anxiety. There were a few, I think I would say about like 90 to 95% of my caseload, especially those first 2 years of working as a therapist, were all intense anxiety. And then the 5 to 10% would be clinical depression. So, here I was seeing clients who were all struggling with severe panic attacks, like just these intense fears of leaving the house, or just like debilitating symptoms, these extreme symptoms. They weren't able to eat, they were having stomach aches and migraines, and they weren't able to sleep, or and the panic attacks were so bad. So many of my clients, the reason they even came to me is because they ended up in the hospital because of panic attacks. And I was like, there has got to be something that we are missing as an industry. There's got to be something that we are not understanding, a way to simplify this, a way to help people before they get to the point where it is debilitating, before they get to the point where they can no longer function. There has to be something. I am, for those of you who don't know, I also have had a podcast. I haven't recorded a new episode in like a minute, but my podcast name is The Optimist Chronicles. So I am forever an optimist, especially when it comes to other people. I'm like, homie, there's nothing you can't do. I'm always the cheerleader. I am your number one fan. But so I was like, there is a better way. I just know it. There's always a better way. There's always a different way to look at the situation. And there's always a way to simplify information and simplify the way that we're going about things. And the biggest thing that you saw is like, there's not a lot of preventative care when it comes to mental health, besides just like weekly therapy sessions. And even then, it's not enough to really be able to make a change. And when you're at that point where you are suffering from panic attacks and your sleep is impacted, you're not able to, you're angry all the time, or you just like, you're just afraid. You can't settle. You're constantly feeling like something bad is going to happen, waiting for the other shoe to drop. When you're at that point and you're not able to dream, you're not able to connect with others, you're not able to do the things that you want to do in life or enjoy them, even if they're happening, it's a lifestyle adjustment that needs to happen. It is changes to your regular schedule or things like that needs to happen. Because what I have realized is that anxiety is not something that just happens overnight. I know in 2020, we all thought that. We were like, oh my gosh, this pretty much happened overnight, all these mental health crises. They did not. they first, every single one of us, it has been built up over a period of time. It might feel like the bridge finally like collapsed and fell beneath you, that kind of rock bottom type of sensation or feeling, but it has been building up for a while. And so in 2020, sometime in 2020 into 2021, I created a concept, a framework called the anxiety languages. It happened, I was sitting down. I remember like sitting down. Specifically, I was on the floor. I was laying on the floor. I think it was like September of 2020, maybe. Yeah, something like that. It was like September 2020. It was still warm outside, so I was like sitting on the floor on my porch. I like to hang out on the ground. If anyone knows me, I'm like, you can frequently find me like laying on the floor on my stomach or like laying in the grass. So I was sitting with a notebook and I was like, I just need to put all the information like in front of me. I need to look at it. I need to look at the numbers, like just the different. I'm also a research girly. I love research. I love data. I love analytics. I love all of that. So I wanted to put all of the information, my numbers together. And something that I realized was that our anxiety speaks in about 5 primary languages, obviously in different ways for everybody. There's always dialects when it comes to a language, but essentially our anxiety is speaking to us through our behaviors. So it's not just like an actual, it's speaking. It's through the behaviors. But there are 5 primary anxiety languages, and depending on which language it falls into, can tell you what the root wound is, how far back you have to go, and what it's gonna, what are some of the things that you need to heal, that you need to create a lifestyle change. And it also, once you figure out your anxiety language, can tell you a lot about what your treatment plan needs to hold, what your treatment plan needs to do for you, what kind of therapy that you might need. It gives you so much insight. And I remember when I first like started to uncover this and connect all the dots, and I was writing everything down. I had like 30 pages of just like me writing everything that I was understanding, that I was connecting all of the dots down in my notebook. And then I like was sharing them with my roommate Sarah. I was like, blah 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 blah, and she was like, "This is awesome." And I would tell my boyfriend at the time, I was like, da, 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 and he was like, "This makes so much sense." And I was like, "Yeah, validation." Anyway, and then I started integrating it with my clients, like slowly but surely. And they were like, "Where can I find more information on this? Are there books?" And I was like, "No, this is literally something I created from my own mind. I did do research on it. It does not exist anywhere else." So it's really, it's me. And I was like, and I'll work on a book. I have actually been working on that book since 2021. So yay. Hopefully, my goal is that actually this year I will publish it, whether it's self-publishing or whatever. But anyway, I digress. The thing to remember is like, once you figure this out, it's going to help you from getting to that point where it's debilitating, because so much of mental health, we're not doing preventative care. We're just kind of ignoring mental health until it's like a problem. So like, even when you hear people talking about like mental health tips, mental health, X, Y, and Z, a lot of times it's reactive, what I call reactive care. You notice that you are struggling with X, Y, and Z, and so now you're looking for things to help change that, which is fine. But it's gonna be so much more rewarding and so much more helpful to do preventative care. And to me, that is what luxurious mental health is. It is having a routine, a practice that grounds you, that allows you to sustain the results that you feel, that allows you to work past any of those triggers, so that when things come up in life that are challenging, it doesn't completely throw you off your wheel, like feel like it's throwing you off of a cliff, to where then your nervous system is a wreck, and then your physical health is tanking, and you can't think, you can't problem solve, you can't connect to other people. And so you just end up, a lot of times we end up then in the extremes, heading into depression, because we're so paralyzed with fear, and we start to feel hopeless because of the physical sensations in our body. We're not able to kind of like make that jump. So it's really, really important that we are truly diving down into our mental health, and that we let ourselves experience luxurious mental health. Luxurious mental health is going to help you in all avenues. Mental health in general, there is not a single area of your life that is not touched, influenced, impacted, enhanced, or the opposite of enhanced. I don't know, I can't think of the word. By your mental health, by the state of your mind, by the way that your emotional health, your subconscious or conscious belief systems, your ego. There is not a single part of your life that is not influenced by your own personal psychology. It's just the fact. You can lift all the weights you want. You can run, you can get the promotion, you can have the family, you can get married, you can find a partner. You don't, when people say like, you can't do this and you can't do that until like you change all these things about you, that's not true. I mean, you can have whatever you want right now. Will it be exactly what you want it to be? Probably not. It might be, but you're not going to be able to enjoy it. You're not going to be able to truly experience it unless your mental health game has been like zeroed in on. And if you haven't been doing the preventative care, if you've just been like, I have so many people, and this could be like a controversial opinion, it is what it is. If you are only staying on the surface in your therapy sessions, you're not going to get that much out of it. It's going to take years to get to the root, and it's going to take years to then pivot and find some healing. You might be able to find some strategies that help give you some like relief in the moment, that de-escalate panic attacks. There are always those kinds of strategies, and they're great. They are 100. I love them. I basically not handed them out, but like I would give them to discuss that with clients, like trading baseball cards. Do people even trade baseball cards anymore? I don't know. Like trading Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I know that people, or like, is it magic cards? I had a friend who did magic. I think it's called magic, whatever. Trading cards, giving them out. Like, okay, this is what you're struggling with. Here, try this. But it made such a difference when we knew what the root cause is, when we actually got deep. And I always told people, I am not the therapist for you if you want to stay on the surface. We are getting under, deep, grimy. We are like, and that's okay. And also, one of the things to remember is like, if you want to get into the subconscious and what the subconscious is really holding, it's gonna maybe feel a little bit repetitive sometimes. The questions anyway. Anyway, your mental health touches everything in your life. You can have the things that you want. People who are like, I just want to find a partner, but I can't do that until I feel good about myself. That's not true. It's just not. It's not a thing. You could go and find a partner right now. You could go and find a person right now. But if you are not in a place mentally, you haven't been working on your mental health, or not even working on your mental health, you don't care about your mental health unless you're experiencing mental illness, you're not going to be able to truly enjoy. And more importantly, what happens when we don't have luxurious mental health, or we don't think about our mental health until it is literally a problem, until it is mental illness, is we call in things just to try to fill the void, just to try to patch up the wound temporarily, to make it feel just an ounce better than it does. And we end up with all these misaligned things. We end up with these things that don't really make us happy, that didn't actually fill the void. And then we think, oh my gosh, I'm just never going to be happy. I'm always going to be this way. Life is always going to feel exhausting, and I'm never going to be able to enjoy anything. And it's a very slippery slope. And then we end up in cycles of depression and anxiety all the time, on and off. And it's even more exhausting. And it's hard on our physical body. And it takes a toll on us physically. And it takes a toll on us and on our social relationships, our romantic relationships, how we parent, how the work that we do, the dreams we have, the motivation and inspiration, and just the pleasure that you allow yourself to feel in life. So many people in this world are disconnected from pleasure. don't know how to experience it, don't know what it feels like in their body. And so many people, they'll come to therapy and they'll be like, I just want to feel happy. I just want to feel okay. I just want to not feel so stressed out and anxious all the time. But they don't know what that actually feels like. So you're working towards a goal that has no finish line because you have never allowed yourself to really connect your mental health with your physical body. You know what it's not, and that is a great start. It's an absolutely fantastic start. None of what I'm saying is to like make you feel bad or to be like, you're doing all this wrong. It is just trying to show you a better way of doing it. And I'm sharing some of my like controversial opinions. I'm not your average therapist. I've never have been. I don't believe that you should have to be in therapy for a year or years to accomplish something. I actually had a supervisor most recently who and like mentor who agreed with me, and I was like, thank God. I was like, thank God. Because I had the first clinic I was at and the first couple supervisors I had, they were psychotherapists, and psychotherapists, loved them, awesome. It's slow. It's a slow and steady, it's a slow and steady build. I have many friends who are psychotherapists and they're amazing, but it is a slow thing, and they plan to be with clients for years. And I'm not like that personally. I could not guarantee that I would be going to therapy week after week for years if no progress was being made, or if like the progress was like the tiniest little inch. It's just, I'm kind of an all or nothing kind of gal. I'm a very like, let's go, let's go, let's go. And I'm able to get to the root cause of stuff just like very easily, very clearly. I've been like that my whole life. I've been able to, if somebody says something, read between the lines, see the patterns that are there and uncover them, unmask them, and help them create something better. That's why I loved macro and meso social work, the admin stuff, program design, program management, is because I had those skills. I'm very skilled at that. And so most of the time I'm like, okay, we're going to do this in 3 months and then you'll be good. And if you want maintenance, I think needing to go to therapy for a year or years at a time to accomplish one goal is very different than going to therapy as a preventative tool, as a preventative action. So going to therapy for maintenance work, as I call it, or as people call it, is very different than needing to go. And you don't want to have a codependent relationship with therapy. You shouldn't only be able to handle life's challenges and life's up and downs if you are in active therapy. Then your therapist isn't doing their job if you are codependent and needing that, because there are so many other resources and you can create that safety and security intrinsically. So that's what I had to say about that. Let me think if there's anything else. So let me ask you guys kind of one last thing. It's 2024, you have all these goals for yourself. You are like, I want this, I want this, I want this. Are you saying I want this and this and this, and then I'll let myself rest, or then I'll let myself feel this way? Or are you truly allowing yourself to dive into your mental health? If your mental health is kind of the last thing on the list or something you don't think about unless you are literally having panic attacks, or you're literally like yelling at your kids and you're like, I don't know why I'm acting this way. I don't know why I feel this way. You need a shift. Put your mental health at the top of the list. And whether that means you're in therapy, or you are having a journaling exercise, or you're doing, breath work and journaling, or, you're just venting in voice notes that you're going to delete later on, whatever it is, having some type of practice to allow yourself to, one, feel your emotions to the full capacity so that they can be released. And so they're not just stored in the body or the subconscious. Because when we neglect our emotions, when we ignore them and shovel them down and don't let ourselves feel them, and you know what happens? Your body and your mind are like, oh, we can't feel this. It must not be safe if we can't fully live as expressions of ourselves. And also, our emotions are just messages and how the soul speaks, the colors of the soul. It literally is how the soul is speaking to your physical body, trying to get it to take an action, to understand something about how it's interacting with the physical world. So when you're like, no, we're not going to feel this, we can't, or we don't have time to feel this, whether it's one emotion or them all, you are telling your physical body and your mind it's not safe, which is then going to cause you to be in fight or flight mode. And when we do that, and so many of us are living out of fight or flight mode. What happens is that you're living in a constant state of stress. All the decisions you make, all the sensations you're receiving are filtered through stress. Even the happiness you feel is filtered through, like, think of it like a Brita filter. It's going in through stress. And so it's not going to be what you want. Okay, 2. So if you are not coming face to face with your emotions. 2, if your behaviors that you find yourself falling back into time and time again, don't match with what you actually want, and then you kind of find yourself in like a shame spiral, it's going to totally derail you from any of the things that you want in life. And it's also any of so this has to do with subconscious, and any of the progress you might be making, even like in therapy and stuff, if there are unexpressed, unacknowledged emotions and traumas and wounds and energy in the subconscious, it's going to create an obstacle with having sustainable growth, sustainable results when it comes to your mental health. Because essentially what happens when we have something that is unprocessed, and this is where like a lot of people struggle with when they start therapy and they feel that immediate release of just like talking about it, or just being like, oh, it feels so good to finally talk about it with somebody. And where they get that stagnancy, usually like within the first like couple months, or even like that's why it can take years to get through stuff, is the fact that when you stay on the surface and the issues are subconscious and all these like wounds are being stored in the subconscious, these unprocessed emotions, it builds and it builds. And your subconscious is so focused on helping you survive and keeping you safe that anything that reminds your subconscious of the original inflicting wound or trauma, be it energetically similar or physically similar or emotionally similar, it's going to trigger you. Now, a lot of us live in a state of being triggered. We're kind of like if you think about it on a scale, there's like, 1 to 10, 10 being like totally dysregulated, totally like, stressed or depressed. A lot of us live at like a 6 or 7. It's just, at least from what I've experienced. And so when that happens, it becomes easier and easier to get triggered. Also, it's your anxiety trying to speak to you like, hey, you got some stuff that you need to get back there and organized and get rid of so that we can make room for the new stuff, right? And I don't remember if I think I had a third point, but honestly, it's totally slipped my mind, which is very me of me. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed this little rant. I love talking and I love educating. I love sharing my experiences and the things that I've seen and learned over time. I am not going to pretend that I know everything. I certainly do not. I am somebody who is thirsty for knowledge all the time. Like, if I had all the money in the world, I would study all the things. I would always be in a college course or a higher education course, just all the time for funsies. And I think that is an important component of being a therapist, being somebody who is a leader in the industry, because it's important to be able to understand that there is always more to learn, that there are always dots to be connected. And obviously, as with anything, take what resonates, but be open to hearing different perspectives, be open to how this information might play a role in your life. I talk about it all the time with like moms, for an example. One of the demographics I work really closely with is anxiety shows up differently in moms. So does depression. And if we aren't willing to open our eyes to these kinds of things, and we aren't able to be open to the fact that some of the ways that we live and experience life aren't working for us, then nothing ever is going to change. And every single one of you watching and every single person that you know deserves to live and experience the fullest life, the most beautiful life, and deserves to be able to feel at peace and restful and joyful. And we deserve for it to not feel so damn hard all the time, or like to feel burnt out from trying to take care of ourselves. That shouldn't be how it is. I don't think I touched on that a lot today, but it's something that I will be touching on in the future, because it should be easy. It should be easier. It doesn't, not necessarily easy because life, but it should be easier than what it is, and it should be sustainable. And that's really what I want to do. First of all, I'm a single mom. I'm not just a mom, I'm a single mom. And I know life can be hard. I know that sometimes you're like, I don't understand what I'm doing or how to do the things that I want to do. Should I even be doing this? And you're constantly pulled in all these different directions. I get it. But it shouldn't feel that hard. And I know what it feels like to feel like you don't want to tell people or talk to people because you don't want to burden them with what's going on inside of your own mind. And you don't want to be a bad role model for your kids. You want them to be better than you are. You want them to have the freedom you didn't feel like you had emotionally or like psychologically, and to feel lonely. Because when I entered motherhood, I was constantly told how lonely it is. And even outside of motherhood, just like I felt lonely for a majority of my life. And I don't want anyone to experience that. You're not alone. I'm here to help you. I'm here to help guide you. Your mental health does not have to be this complex maze, not for you, not for your kids, not for your mother, your brother, your best friend. I want to make this easier for you guys and share all that I've learned. I didn't really want to get into clinical therapy, but here I am and I love it. But I was the same way when it came to energy work. I did not really want to get into energy work. I was kind of like, I don't know. It's like not really for me. I was raised Catholic. But it is so powerful when you apply it to your mental health, to your your personal psychology, to the mental health of the mental health especially preventative, when it comes to preventative mental health of your family. It is one of the keys to having a luxurious mental health state. It is so freeing, and it especially is like, I swear by it when it comes to working with kids, mostly because I have used this for my own daughter who is 6. So I'm really excited to share my different perspectives and experiences with you. And I'm always open for debate. Your girl loves debates and negotiations. I grew up in a 2-party household. For those of you in the States, my mom's a Dem, my dad's a Republican. I think even my house is split. There's 5 of us, siblings wise. And so there's always debates. And I love them. I love having intellectual conversations about things. So I'm always open. I want to know what your experiences are, what questions you have, how I can help and simplify this, because I feel like it should be simple, or at least simpler than it is. So let me know what you guys think, and I will talk to you later. Bye.